Should you be running a business through a sole trader, or should you be running a business through a company? So, sole trader is you're really basically running the business out of your personal name. You'll go set up an ABN, and that Australian business number is to identify your business, but it will be also connected to your personal name and your personal tax file number. So when you do lodge your tax returns for your business, it would be under your personal tax return as well. It would also cost you probably anywhere between $200 to $500 to do it. It's sole trader tax return. Could cost you even cheaper, just depends on how much work there is to do. So when you start making a lot more money, or you want to reduce your risk, that's when you start thinking about getting a company. So the thing with sole traders is that because you're putting it under your own personal name, you get taxed at the individual tax rates. The individual tax rates are very progressive, so the more you make, the more tax you pay. So if you make up to the highest tax bracket, you'll be paying roughly around 45% of tax. So if you're making roughly around 180K, it might be best to move to a company, so you don't have to pay as much tax. A company is a bit different. It's a separate legal entity, and that could cost you roughly around anywhere between $600 to $1,000 to set up. So you'll have two separate tax returns that you need to lodge, one for your personal name and one for your company as well. So as you can see, it's a bit more complex, and it means that it's going to cost a bit more. So accounting fees, it could cost up to $4,000 to $5,000, just depending on how big your business is. The benefits of having a company is a separate legal entity. You can split the risk, and therefore if anything happens to the company, if the company does anything wrong and it gets sued, those people suing the company and the business, they are unable to go for your personal assets. So it's beneficial for some clients that are in a risky type of business. Some industries, such as the building industry, they prefer to have a company in place because they can get sued by their customers, they can get sued by the general public, or they can even get fined by the government. So they prefer to have a company in place to have some sort of protection. Obviously, you're not protected to everything. You can still get sued personally if you're doing anything fraudulent or negligent. But having a company itself, at least you're splitting some of your assets, and so they only can go after the business assets if something goes wrong. Another thing is about image. So a lot of companies out there, they just like to protect themselves. And as a result of that, they just rather deal with a company, whereas it's just a company to company and it's just a business transaction compared to are they dealing with an employee even though you're a contractor. Another thing about moving to a company is the brand image as well. They like to deal with companies and like to have that brand working with a Pty Ltd Company. Another thing that we can look at is also how much money are you making and how much tax savings you can make as a company. So the tax rate on a company is 27.5%, whereas an individual could go up to 45%. You're essentially saving close to 20% in taxes if you have a company as opposed to an individual. So a lot of people think, all right, if I'm making around $100,000 to $200,000, maybe it's best to move to a company and have the company make that money. They're the things you got to look at. You can actually save a lot of money if you're turning over that much and making a net profit of over 200K, move to a company and pay 27.5, you can reduce your taxes. But that's really it. So the main things that you should be looking at is your income, how much money you're making, how much tax you want to pay, and the image, as well as what type of risk are there. So is it better just to move to a company and de-risk and prevent yourself from losing any of your other assets? Yeah.